Board games, board games, that's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Once again, the person beside me is the person known as Ellie. Ellie has written a book, which Ellie might have if they look. Board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Today we're talking about conventions and how it can relate to family situations and how maybe your family will have some more joy when you mingle and meet other people at conventions. Board games, I'm not going to shout. Board games, it's what we're talking about. Hey, good morning.
Hooray!
And it's lovely to see Nick Butler again. Hello, Nick.
Hello.
And take seat. And hello, it is lovely to see you both this morning. And I hope that you are having, although out of respect to the, people in Australia or New Zealand, I said that after 100, I was going to stop doing the Betty Breakfast board game bladders. So now it is the Betty Bedtime board game bladders.
Well, I didn't even notice that change on the bottom there. What number are we on?
Well, I don't know. I will have to check. 112.
Ta-da! That's loads.
Yes, it is. It is quite a bit.
Many hours of live streaming.
Hello. And hello, Dave Weatherall. Lovely Dave from Are You Still Living in and 112. Is that not what I said? Oh yes, this is episode 12 of the Betty Bedtime board game bladder. Yeah, I get what you mean, Dirk. Say it's a nice one. Okay, so yes, it is. I am Bez. If you're based in, some parts of the world, it's his bedtime. And today we are going to be blethering about board games. More specifically, today I'm going to be talking about board game conventions and family gaming and how the two intermingle with the wonderful ELLIE DIX.
Thanks. Looking forward to it.
And before we start, we've got a few bits to talk about. Firstly, brilliant things. What's a little thing which is brilliant?
Oh, a little thing which is brilliant is the foot.
Whoa, the foot. That is pretty brilliant. I mean, feet supports you. Feet allow you to move. I mean, yeah, sometimes we were talking about that, with the song Big Yellow Taxi, you don't know what's it got till it's gone. And exactly. Sorry, I don't know, was that a bit too personal? Have I revealed too much?
I am not about to lose my foot. It's all right. No, I have been to the doctor about a small issue with my foot, and it just got me thinking. As you know, I don't know if anybody else does this and catastrophizes around small things, and my brain kind of wanders and I get kind of overactive imagination, and then suddenly in my thoughts I'm, oh my gosh, what would I do without my foot? And it's got me thinking about how wonderful it is, really. And both of them, but particularly the right one, which I'm giving extra love to at the moment.
Why the right one?
Well, because that's the one that's poorly.
Oh, okay.
That's the sore foot. But also, I'm right-handed, and look, I don't go around kicking footballs very often, like at all, really. But if I was to, it would be with the right foot, I think. Yeah, I think so. So, I think it's my leading foot. Yeah.
I think feet are pretty brilliant. And I mean, I think we could focus loads on the entire leg. And I realized I never asked you, Ellie, what time you want to actually be gone from here. So if you could give me a thing in the private chat or whatever. But yeah, we could talk about the entire leg, everything that supports you. And, the back structure, there's so much more to joy in your body, or even those little toes that wiggle and wiggle.
Well,
And good morning to Alan Oughton, who's listening in the trees, apparently.
Oh,
And
that sounds interesting. We need a picture.
okay, so let's swiftly move on to games. What have we been playing? What are their names? Games. I was going to play a quick game of Kitty Cataclysm yesterday solo, and then I got distracted by other things. I basically started chatting to someone on WhatsApp, just kind of sending long one-sided messages. And I thought, why am I doing this in this tiny group? Maybe I'm getting a bit general, a bit philosophical. And I guess that leads me to my highlights, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I've not played any games yesterday. Sorry, everyone.
Well, I have played a game yesterday, but all of us forgot the rules, so we had to make them up as we went along. It's that geography game, Who Knows Where. I don't know if you played it or seen it. Often they're at conventions. I'm quite a big geography fan, and in our rules, I totally lost. My husband won, which I'm not very pleased about, because I've got a GCSE that I'm proud of in geography, and he hasn't, and he actually calls it mapanology instead of geography, and he still beat me, so I'm cross about that. So yeah, we made up the rules. The scoring was all over the place, didn't really work, but my younger son desperately wanted to play it, so that's what we played yesterday.
Now we do have to move on, and I think it's wonderful having house rules. I'd like to talk to Tony Boydell about it if it doesn't anger Tony too much. I've invited Tony to come on at some point, if Tony would like. But yeah, house rules are a brilliant thing, but we have many other recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights. So my recent highlight was this realization yesterday that I do have a wonderful connection of people around me. I had a few realizations. Firstly, it's kind of this thing that Xate keeps, well, I say keeps talking about, it's basically Xate mentioned it once to me, and I keep thinking about it because it's just something that really resonated with me. It's the thing that you can hope for something that you don't expect for, as in your expectations. Even if your expectations are low, you can still hope, you can dream big. Secondly, it's all about loving other people, showing gratitude and expressing, that love in some ways in a healthy manner. And thirdly, just the notion of, at least for me, I have a very big ego, and if someone doesn't put my game score as highly as they might, or if someone says, oh, someone else is the best, even from that there's a bit of jealousy. And so rather than trying to take those things as room for growth, because I am the best at something, I mean, I'm definitely the best at having made a game called Yogi, as far as I know, and there can be no disputing that. But I'm definitely the worst at making a game called Teotihuacan. Although I say I'm the worst, there's most of us are the worst. There's only a few people who are the best at that. That's a pretty. But the point is that the point I'm trying to get to is that when something is bad, try to use. I went into it a lot last night, so we don't need to get into it. But that is my recent highlight.
Well, I'm glad that you've had some good realizations, and it's good to keep focused on those. Oh yeah, mapanology. Yeah, he has other. He likes to also tell everybody that he's not very good at numbers. So he always adds up things wrong on purpose and things. There you go, quirky husband.
So what were your recent highlights, Ellie?
Sorry, my recent. I was getting distracted with the comments on the screen. My recent highlight.
Do a thing which, we're going to have to kind of move this one along fairly quickly to the main topic, I think.
Okay, so my recent highlight was I was on holiday in Wales, and that was so lovely. Me and my family were there, so my husband and my two boys, and then my my sister was there and my mum in another house. They lived together and we did lots of stuff together. We spent lots of time outside and doing brilliant things. And my brother-in-law created an excellent treasure hunt for us using around the site where we were staying, using 2 apps, the NFC tags and what 3 words. So you had to scan this little thing in your phone, little card, like a hotel room card, and it would come up on your phone with 3 words, but only 2 of them, and then there'd be a clue to the third word, and then you put those 3 words into what 3 words, and that would lead you to the next clue. So it was absolutely brilliant, really ingenious. Was very, very exciting experience. Although he kept making us walk up the hill. He kept, there was 1 clue at the bottom of the hill and 1 clue at the top of the hill, and then another one at the bottom of the hill. Another.
I like that.
That did not go down well. That bit wasn't.
So was it mainly the adults complaining about that bit?
Well, no, everyone was complaining about that bit because the hill's big, right? The estate that we were staying on is a sort of big kind of holiday place. So it's big, and there's a sort of fun run up in the woods on top of the hill, and then it goes all the way down the bottom to a sort of lake and the tennis court down the bottom. It's really, really big and on quite a steep hill. And it was like down the tennis courts and then up to the top of the fun run and then down to the pond at the bottom and then all the way up to the pitch and putt course on the top. Oh my God, everybody was really cross. But the whole thing, the way that the treasure hunt was created was exciting and brilliant and something a bit different, because we do like our treasure hunts, so it's always nice to find a different way to do it.
That does sound like a marvelous set of memories. Now, before we get to the main topic, which, as I've said, is conventions and family gaming, I want to remind everyone to feel free to comment and ask questions, especially ask questions of Ellie, the resident expert in family gaming, and Fun Like and Follow. And let's move to just a subset of the questionably quick questions. Are you ready?
Oh, yes. Are they the same as... I might answer differently if they're the same. Who knows?
I'm not going to ask the ones that would be the same. Did you have breakfast today?
Yes.
What time did you wake up?
5:30 about.
What's the last thing you ate?
My breakfast, which was 2 boiled eggs and 3 tomatoes.
Wooden meeple or plastic figurine?
Wooden meeple.
Arts or rules?
Oh, in a really good rule set.
Books or games?
Say that again.
Books or games?
Games.
3 games that you've enjoyed recently.
Nova Luna. Recently. You mean I've played recently?
Yep.
I've enjoyed playing Quirkle. I played it. We played it 2 days ago and I love it. And Terraforming Mars still.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
I just loved it's kind of like a running gag that every time Terraforming Mars is mentioned now on cue, Xate is going to pipe up. Oh, I was expecting something already to be there. There we go. Terraforming Mars! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Purple.
Well, I mention Terraforming Mars everywhere I go, so why not? We play it about 3 times a week.
Now, I'm sorry, Xate. Yeah, you need to encourage other people. I will play it when I come over, even though I'll probably almost certainly lose. Okay,
you can play it online.
I think there's the question of whether you want to play such a complicated game online, because then there's a lot to look at, and
there is, but it's presented. So there are some things that you normally have to think about and keep calculating in your mind that when you're playing online are done by the computer. So that's an advantage. I don't play it online, but my son does. He plays competitively and is, just all about it. He's live streaming it and all sorts. So he likes it online.
Okay, so let's do a quick definition. What are we talking about? So we're talking about conventions. Do you want to talk about just physical conventions, or are we talking about virtual things like Virtually Expo, which is happening this weekend?
I don't think I've got enough experience of virtual conventions to be able to comment in terms of how they will work for the family. But I think that often that some of the things that are true in the physical world are also true in the virtual world. So I expect that there'll be some crossover. And I expect that some of the issues that you find at physical conventions won't exist at virtual ones, and probably vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, it is very much just like a quick 1 minute tangent. I'll keep the tangents to be fairly short today. I'm finding that with something like Virtually Expo, there's a whole new set of challenges. It's like I've spent 9 years now learning how physical conventions can work, and all that knowledge is wiped out. It's like since Aircon, it's like, yeah, what conventions are happening outside of New Zealand? And yeah, so it's like a crash course, not a crash course, it's like a sudden enforced move towards online marketing, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And so I am lucky in that I have been able to get Chris to put up stuff, and in fact I did have a nice graphic for what I'm doing for Virtually Expo. But yeah, it's like a totally different situation. But we are mainly going to be focusing on families and talking with maybe a beginner's eye for virtual conventions, because hey, everyone is a beginner in this space, and more of an expert side towards physical conventions.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great. Now, how do you define a convention? So you've got something which is free entry, like Festival International de Jeux. You've got stuff which is paid entry. You've got stuff which is just board games, stuff which is all sorts of things like the Comic Cons and whatever. Would you consider all of these under the convention remit?
I think so, really, because if you think about it from the eyes of a child, they're all going to be events at which you go to where there are going to be lots of other people, and there's going to be the opportunity to play games and possibly do other things as well. And that, I guess, is one of the keys, really. It's about variety for children. It's got to be about variety, whether that's variety within a board game convention where there's only board games, or whether that's variety in terms of, I mean, I'm thinking too, I know that this is a trade fair, but when we were in Nuremberg fairs, and, you know, there are several board game halls, and then there's a big hall of cuddly toys, and then there's a hall of balloons, and that kind of, which we spent quite a lot of time in, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, I did spend, you know, €500 buying that machine.
I know, it was brilliant. But no, but we enjoyed being in that.
Absolutely, it's a sense of childlike wonder.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a weird one though, isn't it? It's a trade fair because kids aren't allowed to go in unless supervised. You're not meant to go in to play with the things. And I remember going into London Toy Fair for the first time when I was like, oh, wow, I'm allowed to go here. And after I'd done my initial laps and checked out everything, then during that, I saw like all these sticks that were just being balanced, and then I started playing with them. And then the person came over and I said, oh, sorry, I know, like there was somewhere downstairs where I kind of tinkered with this train which was moving around, and then the person said, oh, please don't do that. And I said, why? And he said, oh, because we've got it going round on a continual loop, so it will never stop. And I said, oh, I'll make sure that I put it back or make it go before I leave. And then he said, oh, no, I'd really rather you didn't touch it at all. And it was like this small, cute toy, which is probably designed for, I don't know, 3 or 4-year-olds. And I have enough memory at that point, you know, when I'm alert, when I've, you know, not, you know, when I'm alert, I have if I'm really committed to remembering the layouts of a track, but I can sort of understand maybe they've been scuppered in the past, someone messes up, but it's a completely different environment, isn't it?
It's totally different, and I think you're almost like watching through a screen, aren't you? It's probably more like a virtual con than a regular kind of convention. If you're going to a trade fair, it's very much a look but don't really touch environment. And you can look, you can maybe touch a bit, but then you have to withdraw and you can't purchase those things that you can take business cards, and that's pretty much it. So it is a little bit like some of the virtual experiences you have now, where you can see, you can take information, you might be able to sign, to order something straight away, but you're not going to have it to take away. You're not going to have it to play in 5 minutes in the cafe, which is one of the lovely things about being a proper convention, really. And of course, it's certainly one of the things that I'm missing, but just being able to wander around and pick up stuff and go, ooh, I wonder what this is like, and sitting down and playing a game that you've never heard of that just looks really exciting and captivating, and that's harder to capture in a virtual environment, I think.
Yeah, so let's talk about how it can be good, not just why your family might want to go to a convention. I don't know, maybe we should touch upon that first, but also how individual conventions can be good for the family. I know that I've had, I think Scaled Con might have been the first, online board game convention. I'm going to keep saying that until someone refutes it. But that was the weekend after Aircon, which was which was the last physical convention. So it stands to reason that if Aircon was able to run, if it wasn't the first, it would have been at least the first in the UK. So this was replacing Edinburgh's thing. As an exhibitor, I was basically sitting around in my chair, and people came along, and so they had the one-to-one almost experience, and there was a nice sense of, hey, we've actually got this interaction with this person directly, and it is almost a lot more spread out. I think it's unavoidable that when you have a digital convention, it's not going to be quite as busy, I think, based on my experience. People who turn up might turn up for only a couple of hours or an hour of it just to pop their head in. Quite often, the ones that have been paid for by punters have not gone down so well, unless it's been like a specialist thing like playtesting. But, sorry, I'm trying to talk about why it's good.
No.
Well, it's like, have it because it is quieter. What I was getting to was that one-to-one relationship that you can have with the person who made the game. Because I was playing with a family, and they had a few children. They didn't have to get out of the house or anything, but still they were like, hey, lad, come over here and try this game that Bez made. And so I was teaching them one of the L games just over.
Absolutely. And I think that's, the hardest thing about being in a real physical convention, is that when you've got children, then they've had enough. Oh, I just poke up there. When you've got children and they've had enough, then it's, that can colour the whole day and possibly the whole weekend. I had this experience at Essen last year. My younger son hadn't been before, and he was 12 then, so not little. And you know what Essen's like, it's mad, right? It's busy, and even on the first day it was quite busy. And busier actually on the first day than it was the previous year, I think. And he was overwhelmed and wasn't expecting it. And I had only previously been to Essen with my older son, who's just like me, kind of all in. And actually it coloured our experience for the following, he was like, I don't really want to go back the next day. And we're like, oh, we're here for 4 days. We're doing it all every day. I'm like, no. And we were staying.
There is so much to do. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So much to take in.
There's so much to do there. And, but there's so much onslaught, and there's so many people that, not necessarily with a 12-year-old, but if you've got any younger children, you are worried about, you can't leave them somewhere necessarily. I mean, with my son, the first thing I did the next day was, okay, look, we're going to find a spot that you can go to, that you can be comfortable, and that you can have as much time out as you want, whether it's, sitting there, playing on your phone or whatever. I'm not bothered about it. As long as I know that you're going to be here, that's fine. And so we looked for opportunities to do that. And I think, of course, with a virtual convention, there's no worry about that. If they've had enough, they've had enough. They go off and do something else. And that's actually probably the biggest bonus, I think, of it being online, because you're going to these conventions because you want to go to these conventions, first and foremost. And secondly, because you think it's going to be a good experience for the family.
Sure.
And that good experience for the family can turn into a negative experience for you and possibly for the family if you can't get that balance of in a physical environment, if they've had enough. So it's about getting a bit of a balance there, I think. But yeah, that's definitely got to be a pro of the virtual cons.
I mean, I think that, and just to talk through this is a really good mindfulness exercise. Basically, imagining that online and virtual was the first and only way we'd experienced events, and if it was replaced by physical some reason, what would we say was suddenly missing? Because it's so easy to say, hey, what's missing from physical to virtual?
Yeah.
But as you say, that's accessibility, that's ability to, maybe if you've got very young children and you need to, or even older children, and you need to make sure to have their shots, you need to make sure to have all the things that you need to have for an emergency.
Yep.
But if you're just there at your home, well, you've got all these things right beside you. So
Yep.
there is definitely an advantage to things.
Yeah.
Now,
and I think also the advantage of the virtual space is that you have space. You are comfortable, and that need for comfort, we all feel that, but children aren't very good at dealing with that when they feel discomfort. They don't necessarily process, okay, I'm uncomfortable for a bit and I'm going to be fine in about an hour when I'm sitting down and having dinner with everybody. They're not thinking like that. So it's that's when they kind of start kicking off. So when you're comfortable and you've got space, you're more likely to be able to engage with those people if you haven't got all the noise as well of everything going around. I mean, lots of people have sensory sensitivities, and the noise, the actual just noise and full-onness of physical conventions can be tricky.
And yeah, there's many advantages to digital, like Dave expresses, just being able to multitask and be in multiple places at once. Yep. With multiple screens opening. Yep. I mean, I know that Sate does it all the time on an evening when there's like maybe one stream that starts at 8 or randomly pops up at, what time was it last night? Like 9:30, and another stream that, yeah. And
also, I suppose the other thing is the fact that you can teleport from one stand to another. That's quite cool. You don't have to be pushing your way through the crowds to run to a particular place that you need to get to first thing in the morning. You're able to get from A to B in a virtual con without the time lag of kind of getting through people in the halls.
It's been amazing how we've said that we were going to focus on physical conventions, and both of us have so much more experience with that. It's like we could talk about, how in some places it's free entry. In Norwich, Diceni, like anyone is allowed in, which is awesome, because then you get everyone who's like, oh, I don't know if I really like games, but you can pop in if you need to scarp her off with your wee baby, then that's fine. And that's where I met Board Games in Bed with Becky and Kelly. Yep. Yep. So Becky and Kelly, do you know them? They have their wee baby and they can pop in. And it's lovely. And we can talk about other things of, okay, at Tesson you get a lot of new releases from all around the world. You might be exposed to games from Iran and Japan and Taiwan or wherever. I mean, you get games, to be fair, from Europe and America, kind of fairly well represented, just in shops all year round. But then there's also the thing of having an actual family gaming zone in UK Games Expo.
Yeah, that is helpful. I mean, I think, and they're particularly good at UK Games Expo of directing families to the things that families will enjoy. I mean, the staff at UK Games Expo are kind of, you know, they're so good at that. You know, they have, it's not just the family zone, you know, where the big games are, which is great because, you know, being able to play on giant games is something that's really exciting for adults and children. It's not just children, let's face it. Everybody likes to play on a giant Ticket to Ride board. Yeah, but also they have the kids role-playing table where they're running role-playing events for children, and they have, you know, when you turn up to the information place and you say, what have you got? I've got these two kids, they're these ages, what do you suggest? They'll run you through all the different things. You know, they'll talk to you about the kids zone, they'll talk to you about the role-playing games, they'll talk to you about the shows that are relevant and that you might like to go to. And it's that variety, particularly in UK Games Expo, that's so wonderful for children. And yeah, so I think that, you know, when you are planning ahead, and we usually, most of us, I don't know actually, I'm guessing that most people that go to conventions will have done some planning, but maybe that's not the case at all. But if you are planning ahead, getting the kids involved in that is a really good idea.
So getting the kids to kind of pick, what are we going to do? Yeah.
So I mean, like, I know that most people who aren't, I don't know if everybody that goes to Essen looks through the whole games list before they go and works out what they want to see or not. I know that some people do, but even if you're doing that in a cursory way, or if you're watching some pre-released videos, you know, some videos about what's going to be released at Essen, you know, my top 10 Essen releases or things I'm excited about, then, you know, watching those with the children, getting them to say that looks good for, I'd like that one, so that everybody's got things on their to-do list, not just the adults or the adult that's there, so that they already feel like it's an experience that they are having some input into. That's going to be the most positive family experience. I also make sure that I give my kids a budget, which is part of my overall budget for the, you know, games that we want to buy, right? So whatever my budget is, I'm going to give each of the children part of that budget so they can spend it on whatever games they want, and that gives them some kind of excitement.
I guess, control. You know, I'm going to run into, when your children are different ages, I mean, this is obviously a parenting tip, which is why I kind of have you on. I mean, do you then think, okay, I'm going to try and give each child like the same budgets, or do you do it based on yours? I mean, I know
my kids are different ages. There's 4.5 years between them, and I've always given them the same budget each, because they're both sitting at the table playing games. You know, 90% of the time when we're playing games, both of them are there. They're both as involved as each other. I might give I might give one of them a bit more steer than the other, in terms of it's more to do with the fact that they might be swayed by an image on the front of a game box, or they might be swayed by the people at the stand and then wearing some kind of costume that they like, and therefore thinking that it's a good game. So I might give them a bit of steer and encourage them to sit down and play it before going, I want this one. And I would also maybe give them the money over the course of the time that we're going to be there. So they're not going to have, you know, I'll say, well, you know, you're going to have maybe it's £20 or something, or 20, maybe it's a bit more than that. I can't remember how much I gave them last time, £25 or something each. And you can get quite a lot of small games for that, you know, if you're looking properly. And I might spread that out over the course of the weekend, or however long we're going for, so that they've got to think, and they've got to walk around, and they've got to plan. You know, they might have a rule that you can't spend anything before, you know, 12 o'clock or something, or you can't buy anything that you haven't played once. that kind of thing. But I think it helps to keep them really bound into the experience, and like it's a family experience. It's got to be, whenever you go to a convention with your family, it's got to be a family experience. If you want it to be an experience for you alone, get someone else to look after them. Don't take them with you, because it's always going to be a compromise. They're always going to be nagging and annoying at the times when you want to play a particular game. So you have to look at it as if it's a family experience and make sure, therefore, that the whole family's involved. I think that's quite critical.
This notion of kind of teaching some sense of fiscal responsibility and rationing out the money, and knowing that, well, once you've spent your £20 or £25, okay, that's it, it's gone. I think it leads us to the broader picture, which is why is it good necessarily to go to conventions at all? Why might an adult, not just why is one convention better than the other, or how to make that, why do you want to take your children to conventions? Why?
Because they get to see so many, so many things, and they get to experience so many. Look, I'm a firm believer in the fact that board games bring people together, and that you strengthen your relationship when you play board games with people, and that you create these shared memories which you're going to come back to time and time again. And the biggest thing that's going to jeopardize that is having the wrong games. And even if I think I know what games everybody else is going to like, and I've got a pretty good idea about my kids, there's nothing that I can't always predict exactly what they're going to love and what they're not going to love. I mean, I have experiences where I buy a game that I'm sure everybody's going to take to brilliantly, and they don't. So actually, having them there at the convention, it allows you as a family to see what works for our family, not just what works for me or what do I think will work for my children, but what works for us to give us the best chance of having those excellent experiences that we can all come back to time and time again. And if we are thinking about board games as providing shared experiences and these wonderful moments that we always remember, what better way to do that than at conventions? The kids love them. I mean, they are going around and they're looking at all these amazing games, and they're sitting there and playing, and if they don't like it, they just get up and walk away, and then we go on to the next one, and it doesn't matter. So, and that's, there's so much variety there that's a really exciting experience for children, and I want them to be able to be part of that. But also, more than that, what you get to see at a convention are all these people who are, you get to meet designers who are doing, who are creating new things and using their imagination and creativity in ways that you don't always see in school, right? So, schools are quite good at getting children to use their creativity in art and in English, and they're not very good at getting them to use their creativity in subjects like maths. But board games are brilliant at that. People are being mathematically creative all over the place, and that's really exciting because as a mathematician and an ex-teacher, I think it's that's one of the sad things about teaching, is that you're bound by this curriculum, and therefore you can't always do what you want to as a teacher. So they're getting these experiences that they don't get in school. They're meeting people who are being entrepreneurial, and they're getting exposed to graphic design and artwork, and they're getting exposed to how you behave commercially and how you sell things and how you market things and package things. I mean, the whole experience is something that you can't get sitting in a classroom, which is why I take them out of school to go to them. Yeah.
Now, I think there's something really well said there. I mean, firstly, the value of games as an artistic medium and as a medium for teaching, sharing life experiences. I mean, obviously, this harks back to Seize the Power, which, you were a big part of the early playtesting for that.
And I can't wait to playtest it again.
Oh, thank you. It's hopefully going to be on Tabletopia fairly soon.
Okay.
But talk about, but yeah, so this is like quite an adult theme of, okay, let's talk about subjugation of power. But, you know, you've got so many key skills for younger children. I mean, I've learned a lot about words and spelling just by playing my own L games. And I'm like, I guess you could call me an adult.
You have to, Bez.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we do have to.
Yeah.
But as much as I might have a childlike heart, in all seriousness, I've got a fairly good grasp of the English language. I got fairly good grades at hires, and it by playing the game, it's like, okay, now I'm playing this game where I need to make a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 letter word specifically. That's giving me a new set of constraints where I need to learn all the 1 letter words. And now I know that E is like a 1 letter word in French because I was exploring other languages. And, you know, I'm starting to say, okay, now I've played Freemel and got a perfect score the past 3 times I played it. Maybe next time I'll start playing in any language except for English. So I'm going to, and you learn, as I say, hey, is that a word or is it not? Oh yes, of course that's what it means. And you do learn, because you're encouraged to do these things to win, whether it's with other people against the game or against and you've got so many kind of reasons to play, we're not going to get into the reasons to play, but also it's about being exposed to all these different games, which obviously you might not have in your home, even if you've got a really big collection. Wow, now instead of having there's like thousands of games in this place. Teaching them to make those snap decisions, because sometimes that's the skill, being able to judge a thing by its cover, being able to say, well, this game, based on the fact that, being able to sometimes say, hey, we can be surprised. And as you said, talking to those people who are the designers, who are the entrepreneurs, and seeing that's everything else, people are doing other things. Thank you very much, Xate. And so is there anything else that we've not gotten to for general reasons to take a child to a convention?
No, I think that that mainly covers the reasons to take them there. There are lots of tips about how to make it successful when you are there.
Okay, before we get into that, are there any reasons to not take them there, or any pitfalls?
Yeah, for sure. If you've got, as I said before, if you want to go for you, and and you're very much in the mindset that they're tagging along, or that's their mindset, then you should do everything you can to avoid that. If they are very anti-going, try everything you can not to take them. Find someone else to look after them if you can, because they're only going to make it, they'll make it so that you haven't had a good time yourself. It's probably better not to go. Although there is that difficult balance of, you know, not always wanting the children to be able to get exactly what they want, and sometimes knowing better than they do what they're going to enjoy and find useful, and you know, and will be a good experience for them than they do. So you know your children and best, and you'll probably be able to know what category that falls into for your own children. But yeah, if they've got some real major problem, also if they do have those big sensory sensitivities and they don't deal well with crowds, it might not be a great idea. If they're not well, don't take them. Obviously, it's going to be a nightmare. If they're very small, you need to find ways where they're not always at people's feet. Because in big crowds, it's horrible to spend a whole day like that. Yeah. So I think,
not to mention that there's a real sense of physical danger. I mean, if they're very small, then actually going through the busiest parts of UK Games Expo or Essen might be problematic. Yeah,
definitely. You know that you want to have those push chairs, even if you don't use them for anything else. When they're even older than when they're older, then they might be out of it normally. You know, if they're walking around a town, it's different from walking around a convention, particularly if you're going to be there all day. You need to plan in how you're going to cope with the crowds, and that's a big problem for children if they can't see anything apart from people's legs.
Okay, so if we move on to the tips.
Yeah. So we already talked about getting them to help plan ahead of time, and I think you know, the next stage of that is one of the things so when at Essen last year, when my younger son, who was 12 at the time, was getting fed up, the thing that got him back in, there were two things. First of all, we found a space for him, and that was great. And I would encourage people to do that early on. Go and find spaces that if your children are old enough to be allowed to walk around, find somewhere where they can walk around, where they can go to themselves, to get a bit of space from other people. But the other thing that we did was make sure that they're in control of the plan. I mean, in terms of the floor plan, you know, you've got your map, give it to the child, say, okay, we're looking for these stand numbers. Now it's like a kind of orienteering exercise in many conventions, trying to find the stand from the number. You know, it's unbelievable that you can go to exactly where you think a stand should be and it's not there, and then you're on this treasure hunt for this stand. And actually that leading the expedition to find the stand that you're looking for is enough of a pull to bring many children back into feeling like they're really involved. If they've got the map and they're saying, we're going this way and we're going that way. So that's a good thing to try and do. Definitely, if they're old enough, give them some freedom. You know, if you trust your children not to be bolting out of the convention, they're relatively safe places to be. You know, there's so many people there, and there are so many exciting opportunities for them, that if you feel like they're old enough to go and do it, then just let them have time by themselves, and just have times in the afternoon when you're meeting up. Make sure they've got their phone, or they've got a phone with them, so that you can be in contact, and allow them to have that freedom in what is actually quite a safe environment. My younger son at UK Games Expo last year got so into D&D that he decided he'd had enough of the board games, I don't know, come sort of the end of day one, and spend the next 2 days in these 2-hour D&D sessions, and just wanted to do that all the time. So and I didn't want to do that, so I'm glad that, you know, he was able to do that by himself, which was great. And I think one of the biggest things is to make sure that you're planning regular breaks. I mean, as adults who are into board gaming, we can go for quite a long time playing games, most of us, and the time goes and you don't even think about it. And if you haven't planned when you're going to break, if the children don't know how long they're going to play this game for, or when they're next going to sit down and have a drink, that can be a bit problematic. So, you know, plan out the day with them, make sure you've got regular breaks, think about where you're going to get food and water, and make sure it's not kind of an hour and a half after they'd normally eat. Children are relatively good at telling us, no, I need to eat. But if you are predicting those things, and before they realizing it, you're there, you're doing it, that will help their experience of the day, and it will kind of preempt those grumpy moments and stop them from happening, so that everybody's experience is positive the whole time.
I think, yeah, building in breaks, really being mindful of the difference between being a child and being an adult, and getting your children involved as much as possible. And when something goes wrong, if it's like, oh, where's this stand, turning it into a treasure hunt.
Exactly.
And just, it's lovely to see Jess. Hello, Jess, in the comments, who is also who works a lot with children over in Thailand. And yeah, and Nick says, it's been lovely taking their youngest, 12 years old, to Dragon Meet and Tabletop Live, and to see then being able to be safe and enjoy games and take parts in playtest teams as well. Because I guess if you're going over to a playtest zone, that's, you know, you've got to be able to express yourself quite clearly. And in a way, okay, I'm just going to say that as a designer, I love it when adults can bring children and they are willing to playtest a game of mine, because children just, you can see it on their faces if they're not enjoying something. They're not going to, I mean, like when you become older, I don't know exactly what age it happens, but there's a point where you learn that you can't throw a tantrum if you don't like something.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, I don't like this straight away. And you learn to kind of curb your emotions a tiny bit. But before that happens, it's like if there's a second that's, hey, I'm not having fun, you are going to hear about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think kids really like that idea that they are helping somebody create something and that they're getting in there while it's happening. You know, and being asked for their opinion, genuinely asked for their opinion, is always something that is quite unexpected to children. That they can actually have an influence on the production of something is really exciting. I mean, it's exciting to everybody, actually. I think playtesting is one of those wonderful things where if the designer is truly open and isn't just, you know, going through the motions of playtesting and has already made all the decisions, then it's, you know, it's an exciting position to be in, because you are influencing something that is in creation. You're influencing the direction that something takes, and that's great, you know. And I want my children to be exposed to that. I mean, they're exposed to that from me, but my elder son has been playtesting this summer for some different publishing companies, and is loving being on the kind of playtest team where that is able to give feedback. And that's, I mean, that's, you know, that's an empowering position, I think, for children, and they don't get put in that position very often. And I think the other things in terms of when you're at a convention, you know, if you can, and I know it's sometimes really hard and expensive, but try to stay wherever your accommodation fairly close by, because one of the things that makes those days, which are already full on, a bit more exhausting is then having to travel a lot. So if it's a schlep to get back to where you're staying, if it's a multi-day convention, that can be enough to break the camel's back, if you see what I mean. They're just, you know, they're a bit fed up by that stage. So if you can stay close by. And the other thing I was thinking about is, and this is, it can be, you know what it's like when you're going to a convention. There's a game you really want to play, and there's a queue to play it, and you want to wait and play the game because it's on your list, and you know there's going to be a queue all weekend, and you know that if you're going to get to play this, you're going to have to be patient. Patience is not something that most children are very good at, and that can very quickly turn a great day into a bit of a rubbish day. So you're going to have to avoid those things where you're going to have to wait, and look for the things that you don't have to wait. And if you're able to go with 2 adults, that's a time you might want to split up. So you know, there's no reason why a family gaming convention experience has to be the whole family together all the time. You know, if your children can go on their own, great. If they can't, and you've got 2 adults, then one of the adults can have some time with the kids while the other adult is doing something they really, really want to do. They might have to wait for, it might be
maybe you want to play a more adult game, by which I mean maybe something that could take more than an hour. Exactly.
And so it's just about planning, really. A lot of it is about planning. Oh, and also, you know, if the kids are picking up games that they have chosen and they have bought, make sure you've got time to play those games. There's nothing more frustrating for a child than, I've got this new game, I'm really excited about it, it's mine, I chose it, I you know, it's the one thing I really wanted to play from the whole weekend, and then, sorry, we haven't got time because we're doing other things. So
yeah, you want to have time every evening, would you say?
Every evening, or you know, particularly, I mean, UK Games Expo is brilliant for this because there's a huge open gaming area, which makes it so much easier for families. I mean, that's what's missing at Essen, having that you know, enormous space where you can go, you can sit, you can play what you've bought, and you can just chill out a bit. And that's why UK Games Expo is one of the best for families, because it's got variety and it's got space for them. So yes, you need to make sure after they've bought a game that you're going to go and have some time to do that.
And I'm glad you brought it up. I wanted to ask you how you felt about family zones in physical conventions, like in terms of some of them, depending again on the age of the child. Maybe it's okay, you can't let them go running off on their own, but maybe you can say, okay, there's this door. At what point do you let the child just kind of sit on their own because you're sure that they won't be ruining the time of someone else, if you know what I mean?
Well, that's, you know, that's, each parent will know what their child, you know, when their child can do that. You know, what's right for one 5-year-old might be the same for a 10-year-old in a different family. So, you know, the parents know when they can do what they can do. But again, at UK Games Expo, there's quite a big family area which is demarcated, you know, in terms of the carpet. I think, if I remember correctly, the carpet's different. I think it had a barrier one year. I don't think it's got a barrier now, but you know, that area is huge. And if they're allowed to, if you're sitting in that area and they're allowed to roam around that area when they're 5 or 4 and you can see them, but they feel like they're making their own decisions, then that's going to be positive, because, you know, they're starting to have that experience of of choosing what they want to play. But I think the other really good thing about family zones is you're going to meet a load of other families there, and asking other parents, or asking other children, you know, as an adult, or getting the children to ask other children, what have you been playing? What have you liked playing? What games have you found? What's your favorite game that you've seen? That's going to give you the heads up about different places you might want to go and different games you might want to try.
I think that, yeah, moving around, letting your child do something, even if you are over on a table next to them. I remember playing Dragonimo at Cannes with some parents, and I think their children were maybe 5 meters away. So it was like little enough that they could keep an eye on them, and an entire top floor, which I really like in Cannes. Of course, this is a bit out of reach for most people who aren't based in Cannes. I mean, unless you are like, hey, let's have a family convention. It is not the cheapest place, but for someone who might, I don't know, maybe you are based in France, maybe you're based near Cannes, in which case maybe it makes sense to go there for the weekend. And the entire top floor is just for children. So, I mean, adults are allowed to go there, of course. Yeah. And honestly, I was a bit annoyed that I never got to play Abalone, because I couldn't find someone else to play it with me. I quite fancied playing it. But anyway, so you get to wander around, and every game on the top floor is meant to be suitable for children. So you don't have anything too complicated. I think, actually, in the entire convention, I think they might have had a fairly more stringent thing. Because let me just say that in Essen, and I've not seen this in UK Games Expo, but in Essen, I have seen things that I would say, yeah, that is a questionable theme. That is something that if my niece was to pay a lot of attention to it, I would have to talk about why this is problematic, if you know what I mean, or exactly what context this fits in. Whereas, yes, something that has been made by Pornhub, for example, which is in Essen, I'm saying that is something that you will actually find in Essen. And UK Games Expo does have a lot more curation. It does have, yeah. So going to Cannes, it's such a wonderful breath of fresh air, where we're like, okay, everything here is basically child friendly. Even if you go downstairs where maybe it's a little finkier, there's nothing here where, okay, there's a few there's nothing here that you would be embarrassed or feel uncomfortable. The most adult theme was the Great Belgian Beer Races, which is about people traveling around, and it's an interesting cultural artifact of Belgium, which is a big thing that we do.
But I think the good thing about conventions like that is that everybody's expectation is that there's going to be children there, and that children are involved, and that it's a family thing. And in some conventions, that's not the case. So, you know, if it's been created as a family convention, then it's set up for that purpose. So it's always going to be easier to start for your first convention in a place that you know is well set up for families. So it's worth doing that legwork beforehand, asking people that have been, if you've not been to that one before, to make sure that it's going to be suitable beforehand. I mean, nobody should start with Essen really with their family. That's just a full-on thing.
Now, before you wrap up, I would like to, if we've got a tiny bit of time, let's explore digital conventions. I know we said right at the start, we are not experts in this, but the fact is that no one is.
Yeah.
Virtually Expo is happening this weekend.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything for Virtually Expo?
No, I'm going to be a punter, but I haven't done any planning yet, so I must get onto that. That's going to be on my list of. Oh, I might have to do that this evening. I need to fully immerse myself in what's happening.
I mean, this is what I'm doing. Just a wee bit. So I'm doing 10, 12, 2, and 4 each day. So 10 a.m. is actually going to be the first day for over 100 days for sure that I'm not going to be streaming on this channel, but it should be hopefully hosted on this channel. If you go to my Twitch, it's going to be doing a UK Games Expo design talk, explaining how design is for everyone. Then 12 is going to, I'm just going to give the full kind of spiel right now. So, Kitty Cataclysm, we're going to be playing that over Tabletopia whilst explaining how it works. Flowers Over Towers, I will be playing it with my table cam. Hopefully with some other people. It's a Rolling Rights. I think you played that one, didn't you, Ellie? While it was being made.
I might have. Was it called that then? I don't know.
It was always called Flowers Over Towers.
I played it, Bez.
Oh. Giftable is a game for the L deck. Fantastical gifts for fictional folk. It's a creative game. You'll be able to join in from the chat. To be fair, you could join in from the chat for, well, Flowers Over Towers, we'd have a tight limit on how many. Giftable, everyone could join in. So 4 p.m. every day, everyone can join in. 10 a.m. is going to be my whole State of Bez, where I talk about the last kind of year-ish, and all about my forthcoming projects. I'm going to be talking about everything to do with categorical, couple, I'm going to keep it really tight and constrained to 1 hour exactly, pretty much. Same as the UK Games Expo talk, which actually has to be less than an hour. So I've got to really come in with some focus notes and everything. 12 p.m. going to be doing Fable with other Bez ELLIE, who's an improv comedian, so that should be fun. Yogi Stock Guru, we are going to be. Have you seen this, Yogi Stock Guru, or formerly known as In a Bond?
You've told me about it, but I haven't seen it.
So this is. Yeah, Xate's helped me make this a reality. So at 2 p.m., we're going to have myself being a trader, and then Jessica Hancock, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget people now, Tom Cauldron, and some other people who I'm feeling, the Honey Badger, Catherine Morgan, and some other people I'm forgetting, hopefully Jason and someone else I'm forgetting. But yeah, companies will actually be performing literally. Companies will have to be literally flexible, because at some point it might get too hard and a company might literally collapse. I mean, hopefully not literally collapse. Hopefully they kind of just stumble a bit or they physically can't do their thing. But meanwhile, the traders will be essentially betting on the performance of these companies and operating these companies, and we'll see how that goes.
Sounds like something that can't be missed.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the highlights of the weekend. And then 4 p.m, a series of quick word games, 3mil, 4mil, which 4mil is relatively new. It just got finished 2 days ago. I say relatively new as if 2 days ago is old by anyone's standards. And Micro Muckle, all of these free games were invented basically for our current COVID situation, and because they are a thing that you can play out over a video chat format, and people from chat will be able to join in. All you need is some paper and a pen. And Brilliant. So that is what I am doing for Virtually Expo. Yeah, but Dave's meant, so what, do you have any plans at all?
No, because I haven't looked yet. I've been really busy, and I really need to just sit down with on the site and have a really good look at what's happening, so that I can plan out what I'm going to do. But I shall enjoy. I am looking forward to being able to go and do one thing and then have a cup of tea, sit down, and then go and do another thing. So I'm looking forward to that kind of. It will happen in my weekend rather than be my whole weekend. I'll try and look out for the 4 elements thing. I've now lost that, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 4 elements. So apparently they're doing the UK Nationals. So I think what Robert's done in the past is having like a heat here and a heat here, and I think that's been going over for the past year. And then presumably this means that they've got the top 2 people, and they are going to be playing physically, which sounds quite good.
Okay. Sounds quite good. Sounds quite good. I'll have a look at that.
And yeah, so I mean, earlier on, I was planning, a whole thing with Discord. Everyone's got to kind of see what works, and this is a brand new thing. Yeah. There are talks, as Dave said, Dave Wetherall. There's been a lot of good work by the directors, Richard, Tony, and not to mention everyone else involved in UK Games Expo to try and have the seminars. They even have a video of the Vikings going on, I think, once a day. Like, it's a live video, so you can actually just be there and chat and feel like you're part of the community. And there's going to be no queues on the loose.
That is a good thing. That is a really good thing.
If we were to focus, as I said, in the final bit, just with a talking, I feel like we should do it quickly about Virtually Expo for those people who might be watching, who might have something going on with their family or another convention that is much like this. So what is good about it? Why should you go?
Well, because you're going to see things that you won't see sitting at home. Nobody can go anywhere and do very much at the moment. Not like we're used to. So, go on.
I was going to say, maybe rather than go, we should even say tune in, because
tune in, exactly. Most parents have had an issue during lockdown and beyond with screen time and how much time they've been on. And as I said to my 13-year-old yesterday, it's about variety. It's about doing other things on a screen. It's not just about, how much time we all spend on our screens, because I'm on my screen. I'm working all the time. I'm on my screen. But it's about what you're doing when you're, what kinds of things are available and what kinds of experiences are available, rather than just playing video games or doing what, he's doing. So, so that hopefully will introduce us to more different things and show us the possibilities of other things that are online. And I think actually we're at a bit of an exciting moment with, huge events happening online that's not happened before. Yes, there are cons about that, negatives to do with that. The software isn't quite where we might want it to be in terms of all the experience, but people are finding workarounds, and watching people find workarounds and watching people work out what the best ways are to connect with people and to give them a good experience and to draw them into their games. That's really exciting and something that we should be watching and taking part in and helping people with. Because, you know, the one thing that won't make virtual cons any better in the future is if nobody bothers going to them. Then, you know, there won't be any feedback. There won't be enough experience from everybody to make them better and better and better. So we have to be in there. We have to get in there. We have to take part so that they can get better and so that we can say what we like about them.
And I mean, so it feels like with pitfalls and stuff to avoid, I guess, you know, it occurs to my mind that maybe with a screen, it can feel very insular. So maybe you want to set up the computer or something in a different location. Maybe set up a screen in a living room. Maybe make it more of a family event so you can all play together.
I mean, I think one of the things that one of the things that I think might be an issue, and I haven't got lots of experience, but I wonder how easy it is to navigate your way around and to know everything that's happening. You know, when you go to a physical convention, you know how to find out about stuff. And you know that by walking around the halls and just looking at the stands, they're saying when their events are happening. and you know how to interact with the physical space. The virtual space is not as linear and is not as easy to grasp. So the worry, I suppose, is not being able to find the information you're looking for, missing whole sections of things that are happening because you never clicked on the right link, and knowing where to find people to ask for that information. So having a little bit of a play, maybe before you get the family in, you know, knowing what getting an idea of the convention before you call everybody else to the room might be a good idea. Or sitting there with one of your children on two different devices, having a look, so they're exploring and you're exploring. And actually, kids are a lot, you know, more proficient at exploring digitally than we are in many cases. So, you know, getting them involved in that might be a good way to start.
And I think that it leads us to, I mean, again, going back to something, I see that I've cut off the 4 p.m. bit, which I was going to talk about. This multiplayer solitaire, which I know that we've played a few such games with you, Ellie, on your Monday nights that you did like a private thing.
Yep.
But when I'm doing a public thing, which I do every 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, and certainly here, I think it's going to be very family friendly to come in and then to play Freemel. Hey, maybe we can work separately, or maybe if the child wants, hey, would you like a wee hand here? Or and same with Giftable. You might be surprised by what your child can turn up, and then you type in as parts of it and you still feel like you're part of the experience. And having something where you feel like you're playing it, I think, I was going to say, yeah, this is very incredibly self-serving. I acknowledge this, but I would say tune into twitch.tv/stuffbybez at 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah.
You can put a treadmill in front of your TV. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it, isn't it? You can be at the convention and also be at home, and that's got to be, in some ways, that's got to be the best of both worlds. You know, at least you can get a cup of tea while you play a game, and it's easy, and you're not going to spill it on someone else's game.
I think that whatever the con you approach, the lovely thing about the convention is that now that it's online, you can step away from any points. If there's any tantrums, it's fine.
Yep.
You do have to be a bit more aware. I think the other pitfall that I should say is that, especially with live events, you know, I guess UK Games Expo has arguably slightly less control over things once you go out with their links, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And certainly there have been problematic things in the past with RPG when someone had to be ejected for bringing questionable content into the convention. Right. And this is just a nature of what's going to happen with people. So you do have to watch out for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very unlikely to happen. I mean, the people who go to good UK Games Expo are good people. The people who run it are really good people.
Yeah.
And they do.
You just have to go with an open mind and knowing that this is the first time this has happened for UK Games Expo. So you know you're in at the beginning in this kind of format, and there will be some teething problems. There are going to be, of course there are, but you have to take it for what it is. That a team trying to do an excellent job to bring us something that otherwise we wouldn't have had anything this year.
I think that's basically everything. Is there anything that we've missed, would you say?
I don't think so. I think we've covered it pretty well.
I would like to say, in that case, thank you to everyone. Thank you to my wonderful moderators, Alan and Alex, and of course, most of all, to Xate, who is doing such a great job welcoming and reaching out to everyone and keep fostering a wonderful community. Thank you very much, Xate. Thank you to my lovely friend, Jessica Jane Sankey. Lovely person, lots of love. To, Nick and Dave Weatherall. It's lovely to have you all. And
am I allowed to say? Can I give a quick plug, Bez?
If it's links, I was going to paste them in the next bit.
Okay.
Did you?
I just wanted to tell people about my Kickstarter.
Oh, I will do that in 1 second. Yeah, don't worry, I'm not going. Oh. Thank you, and most importantly, I do want to thank ELLIE DIX. Now, if you want to reach out to me, then I am stuffbybez.bigcartel.com, where you can buy my stuff, twitter.com/stuffbybez, where I tweet a lot, instagram.com/stuffbybez, where I try to Instagram at most once a day, but I will do like maybe 2 or 3 times during a convention. And facebook.com/thingsbybez is a thing, stuffbybez@gmail.com if you want to email me. And the one that I missed was the twitch.tv/stuffbybez if you want to reach out. And if you want to reach out to Ellie, then where can you find that?
The website is thedarkimp.com. Facebook is also the Dark Imp. Twitter, ELLIE DIX tweets, and YouTube. There's a long thingy, but just search for the Dark Imp YouTube. Yes, that's how you can find me.
And the YouTube link and all that, I just pasted it onto the Twitch, and on YouTube or Facebook, you will see it in the descriptions. And now, looking forward to hopes and ambitions, it's over to you for this final section. Now, what are you looking forward to? Is there maybe Christmas cracker?
A Kickstarter on the horizon? Christmas crackers. I know it's August, everybody, and we've just had a heat wave, but Christmas cracker games are going to be on Kickstarter from the 1st to the 30th of September. In this giant cracker, which has a twist end, so you can reuse it, there's a deck of cards, 6 wooden imps, the imp meeples or impulse, 120 wooden cubes. There are 6 different rules for 6 different games, and there are jokes, of course, it's a cracker, and puzzles that you can do as well. And the games it's completely plastic free and eco-friendly. The games you can play as many times as you want. It's a cracker-shaped game box. And the 6 games all use the same components. They're designed to be played at Christmas dinner or after Christmas dinner when you're at various levels of being comatose or food comas. And so there are varying different levels of complexity. The Kickstarter is, the video's about to play, but,
Christmas night.
Well, there you go. There's a video. The Kickstarter preview, sort of pre-launch page has gone live today. So you can see, if you look on my Twitter, you'll see the link to that. So you can register for notifications there or on that page on my website, on the Kickstarter page on my website, and I'll keep you up to date. So yeah, 1st of September, get your cracker games.
And so this is just one giant cracker.
Yep, one giant cracker.
It's like an explosion of 6 games and a whole bunch of things. And, you know, Ellie makes some super joyful things. I am personally looking forward to, I'm looking forward to seeing Chris, to getting some work done. I've kind of worked a list of kind of stuff that we need to get done. I'm hoping to get everything very much prepared for, you know, Virtually Expo. So I'm hoping that by the end of the workday, it'll all be up on the Virtually Expo website. And, you know, in an ideal world, it would have been up before. And all the streams will be lined up and links that I can guide people to. And I'll have a mailing list thing sent out. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to maybe it's a new tradition that I might start, just having a wee bit of a walk. You know, maybe I might phone a friend. Maybe I might phone someone. I'm just going to realize yesterday that I should do more of that.
Well, I have a walk every morning, and I totally recommend it. It is definitely a really good way to start the day. I have one more thing I'm looking forward to, which is totally non-game related. Tonight, my Glee Club so during lockdown we've been doing different themes every week. So instead of working towards a show, which we normally do, and singing the same songs every week to get ready for a show, we've just done different things every week. So this week's theme, which I chose, so I'm really excited about it, is TV theme tunes. So it's TV theme tune night at Glee tonight. So we'll be singing things like Rent a Ghost, hopefully, and The Littlest Hobo, and all sorts of other, you know, Fraggle Rock, maybe The Muppet Show, things like that. So yeah, Glee Club's brilliant. Yeah.
And Sate is having an interview process where let's all keep our fingers crossed for Sate. And Nick Butler says, if you are a bump or hear a bump, you call Rent a Ghost. I wanted to say, at the end, please spread the word if you've enjoyed this. My next streams tomorrow at 10 a.m. UK time. I'm going to be chatting about my top 5 L games. It's going to be a quick stream where now, I mean, there are hundreds of L games. Literally, there's like been 43 submitted through the submission process, and you know, I probably invented 20 or so myself, and that I feel quite comfortable with, that they are finished games. And you know, there's like 9 highlights games, so it feels like a reasonable point for me to be able to do a top 5. And I was actually thinking about it for a couple of minutes yesterday, and I'm still not sure what they're going to be, but I think I've got a fairly good idea. I think I've just got to do it basically based on what would I most likely like to play right now. But then after that, I'm doing all my UK Games Expo live stuff, and then there's going to be obviously a thing going on at 10 a.m. every morning thereafter. But just to reiterate, 10 a.m. Saturday is not on the usual channel. But there is only one thing left to do. And the one thing left to do is to say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to